Part 82. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 811. You actually moved a mountain. Looking at the snow-capped mountains in front of him, Master Fool didn't know what to say for a moment. She soon realized that something was wrong. No. Zhang Xiaoyao moved this, right? Yabai rolled his eyes. Can we have the most basic respect for the strongest human beings? Open your mouth and shut your mouth, Zhang Xiaoyao, you demon is so arrogant. In view of the fact that Master Fool has made great contributions to the human race, Yabai can tolerate it for the time being. When Yabai stood at the top and knew many secrets and past history, even he had to admit it. The human race's divine assist came from the demon race's idiot master. This guy is obsessed with being a traitor. In the nightmare generation, the Fool Master started to be an angel investor. She invested in this potential stock of the human race from beginning to end. At the beginning, Wilhan said that he would use his sword to force Master Fool to help Shura build equipment. In fact, I'm afraid this is part of her long-term cooperation with the human race. This guy no longer has a problem with his brain having an anti-bone problem. The whole devil is growing on the anti-bone. Master Fool ignored Yabai and looked around the snow-capped mountains. She became more and more certain that this was done by Zhang Xiaoyao. Shura, still needs some heat. Idiot, I have something to ask you. Yabai was sitting on the snow mountain, feeling comfortable all over, and asked casually. Why do I feel so much more relaxed after my talent is embodied? Master Fool gave him a cold look and said disdainfully. Are you really stupid? Yabai pretended to be all ears and ignored the Fool Master's ridicule. This is not an important matter, Master Fool patiently explained. What is the concept of eternal origin fragments? When the Eternal Nine clan agreed to build the Eternal Tower, guess what reward Eternal gave them? Yabai really knew this. Eternal promise. After everything is accomplished, everyone will share the eternal origin. As for more points and less points, this is Yabai's knowledge blind spot. I know. The little golden pig smelled the smell, came over, pouted his nose and said. My sister said that she asked for 2 fragments of the eternal origin back then. 2 pieces of eternity are worthy of the blood ancestor letting the entire vampire clan bet on the eternal tower. One can imagine how precious the fragments of eternal origin are. Yabai looked at Master Fool again, somewhat puzzled. What does this have to do with yourself? Master Fool said angrily. It's already a miracle that you, a mere mortal, can endure the fragments of eternal origin without dying. If you want to digest the fragments of the eternal origin, don't you know how much it limits you? The most powerful seed of the human race can withstand the fragments of eternal origin because it holds the mark of the most powerful. Otherwise, something of this level, even if it is sealed in 9 ways, is still not something Yabai can digest. After the SSS level talent materialized, the restrictions and suppression on Yabai were naturally lifted. Of course he will feel much more relaxed. However, there is one thing that Master Fool did not say. Before SSS level talents were materialized, the worse the strongest seeds were, the higher their potential actually was. This means that the higher his compatibility with the eternal origin, the more he can digest and be further suppressed. Among the most powerful seeds of the first 4 generations of the human race, the one with the lowest degree of compatibility with the eternal origin is actually Xiaoyao. Because Xiaoyao doesn't look down on the eternal origin at all. However, she will not admit it. Let the Fool Master praise Shura, it is impossible in this life. What's more, the level of potential and the level of strength are 2 different things. The level of strength and the level of combat power are 2 different things. Xiaoyao is indeed not in line with the eternal origin. That is because Xiaoyao does not need SSS level talents at all, he is powerful enough on his own. After looking at the snow-capped mountains, Master Fool said slowly. Don't be too happy. In addition to the snow mountain, we also need a lot of auxiliary materials. Even if we dismantle the pavilion of all things, it may not be enough. Of course Yabai understands these principles. However, the most important materials are already available, and the rest can only be saved slowly. After staying in the exclusive space for a while, Yabai returned to the void. Returning to the void, Yabai found that there was an acquaintance beside Xue Meng. Zhao Qian. What is he here for? Yabai has a good relationship with many people in the sheepfold, but Zhao Qian has always been on a business-related basis. The only personal contact he had was with Yabai, who helped Zhao Qian's brother Sun Li break through the border. It's okay not to mention this kind of unlucky thing. Zhao Qian used to go to Yabai because he wanted Yabai to help solve some of Xiaoao's problems. Now, Xiaoao's own problems have been solved, and he is guarding the abyss alone. Publicly or privately, Zhao Qian should not be so aggressive in seeking out Shura. You can't just come here to say thank you, right? What are you looking for me for? Yabai looked at his long-lost goblin brother and joked. Are you planning to give the pavilion of all things to me? As we all know, Shura has been craving for the Wanwu pavilion for a long time. Yabai spent a lot of effort to get the little share in the hands of the Fool Master, but he couldn't get it. Ahem. Faced with Shura's teasing, Zhao Qian cleared his throat and said seriously. You really have a copy of the pavilion of all things that needs to be signed for? Yabai. What's going on? The third brother is still in the abyss of the strongest. The master of the pavilion of all things, no matter what, Yabai can't get his turn. In the human race, no one talks about tea cooling. What's more, Xiaoao hasn't left yet. Yabai frowned, a little confused, but looked at the other party quietly. Zhao Qian thought for a while and told what happened that year. Why do you think that the world is boring and carefree, so you found the pavilion of all things? Xiaoao never does boring things. 36 years ago. Wilhen went to the abyss of the strongest. When he came back, he was no longer the strongest human being. He looked at Xiaoao, the newly born strongest human race, and asked a question. I left you a life and a knife, what are you going to leave for the next generation of the strongest? The materials for Xiaoao's whisk were given by Wilhen. The materials for Wilhen's broken sword were given by Yingju. According to this inheritance, each generation of the strongest must leave something to the next generation. This question is not difficult. Xiaoao said seriously. My teacher taught me that when giving gifts to others, you should give them something they like. For example, if the most powerful demon likes to die, he must be sent to die. Yingju is really, I cried to death. Yingju has always been very good at being a teacher. Wilhen asked. What do the next generation of strongest people like? Xiaoao shook his head, he didn't know. He is just a Taoist, not a god. How could he know everything? What's more, Xiaoao hasn't even started looking for the next generation of powerful seeds, and the other person may not even be born. How do you know what the other person likes? However, this is not difficult. When you don't know the answer, there are two ways to approach the question. Elimination and exhaustion methods. Xiaoao is better at the second type. After returning from the Supreme Abyss, Xiaoao found Zhao Qian and ordered. Collect all things in the world and put them in a high cabinet. All things enter the cabinet. No matter what the next generation of strongest people like, Wanwu Pavilion has it. Since you want to leave a gift to your successor, it needs to be something the other person likes. It seems to be an unsolvable problem, but Xiaoao's approach is very simple. Give me a pavilion of all things. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 812. It's really a gift, brother. Yabai never expected that his third brother would actually gift him a pavilion of all things. Zhao Qian could only smile and say nothing. To send it or not to send it, Zhao Qian couldn't decide. He is the master of the pavilion of all things, and he is just the master of the pavilion. He obeys the orders of his boss. From the very beginning, the pavilion of all things was prepared for Shura. Otherwise, with Xiao Ao's character, he would never form the Wanwu pavilion. Make money? Such boring things have no meaning at all to Xiao Ao. Among the top 4 generations of the human race, the only one who likes to make money is probably a certain top guy. In fact, if you think about it carefully, there are clues to this matter. Yingzhu and Wuhan teamed up to create Shadow. In fact, Shadow was Xueju's idea, and even the most difficult part, Xueju had already done. The shadow is left by Xueju to protect the genius seeds of the human race and protect the path of the most powerful seeds. Wuhan originally planned to leave his shadow to Xiao Ao. Xiao Ao found it boring, so he didn't do it. However, later, Yingzhu passed the shadow to Shura, and it was regarded as returning to the hands of the most powerful person. If you think carefully, the sword slave has returned to the eternal forest. Without Wuhan, the adjudicator can only be regarded as a second-rate force in the human race. The shadow is in Shura's hands, and now the pavilion of all things is in Shura's hands again. The top forces of the human race have all fallen into Ye Bai's bag. Do you understand what the feeling of oppression from the strongest is? This, I'm not ready yet, ahem. Ye Bai was reserved for a few seconds and reluctantly said. Then let me take care of the Wanwu pavilion for third brother first. Xue Meng. Brother, your saliva is almost drooling, do you know? Putting aside the talk, Ye Bai looked at Zhao Qian and warned. It's business as usual. The Wanwu pavilion has been operating for more than 30 years and is the fairest trading platform in the human race. For foreigners, they trade in Wanwu pavilion, although they need to pay high handling fees. But everything pavilion does is indeed fair. After receiving the money, others will do the work. Wanwu pavilion never engages in such things as killing people and buying goods. Even the handling fee is clearly marked. 1 is 1, 2 is 2. Coupled with the golden sign of Xiao Ao, the strongest human race, it is difficult not to make money. However, Xiao Ao disappeared together with Xianqian Abyss. Now it is replaced by the most powerful Shura. It's hard to say whether Wanwu Pavilion's reputation will get better or worse. Ye Bai obviously knew this and warned. Don't announce this to the public yet. Zhao Qian nodded repeatedly. Understand. For the human race, the best situation is for everything to maintain the status quo. Ye Bai understood this truth, and they naturally understood it too. As for what to do with the Wanwu Pavilion afterwards. It's really cool to have a Wanwu Pavilion for free. But where Ye Bai needed money was to build Shura Pagoda. Of course, Ye Bai didn't need to smash into the Wanwu Pavilion in one go. The water flows slowly. Use the proceeds from the Pavilion of all things to build the tower bit by bit. After the tower is completed, the Pavilion of all things will still be the Pavilion of all things. In this wave, Ye Bai is a win-win. After completing the Shura Tower, you will have to risk your life with the most powerful demon. By that time, money will really be an external possession. Take life and death lightly, and do it if you don't accept it. The few people did not advance long in the void. Ye Bai counted with his fingers. It's bedtime. Wait a moment, the time is up, I'm a little busy, I'll take a nap first. After saying that, Ye Bai closed his eyes and entered the dreamland directly. Xuemeng and Zhao Qian looked at each other. They could naturally see that Shura had a faint sword energy on his fingertips and slashed at him, thus entering the dreamland. But, this skillful technique provides almost perfect control over the breath. Even if Shura is a top swordsman, neither of them would have any objection. But he is a mage. Zhao Qian was suddenly curious about what Shura had experienced in the past 3 years. After entering the dreamland. In addition to children, there is also a stone sculpture of a Taoist. The Taoist's appearance could not be seen clearly. He was sitting cross-legged with his hands on his knees, looking quite like an immortal. This dream space was originally guarded by the remnants of nightmares and dreams coming true. After these things were taken away by Yingju, it was natural to replace them with someone else. This is why Xiaoao has been waiting for Yingju to climb to the top of the mountain. It would be a pity to destroy the goodwill of the most powerful demon god after Nightmare had preserved it like this. Ye Bai was obviously not here for the first time and was very skilled. He first took out some fresh food, gave it to the child, and let him go aside to play. Then, Ye Bai brought out 4 plates of cold dishes and filled up 2 wine glasses. One was placed in front of the Taoist, and the other was placed in front of himself. He didn't even use chopsticks, so he just started. Ye Bai threw a peanut into his mouth and greeted the stone sculpture. "Brother, good morning." The Taoist was very strict and corrected him. "It is noon now. First of all, I owe you 2 updates. This will not be charged to Xuemeng's account. I will make up for it as soon as possible. I have been in a bad state for the past 2 days, with severe insomnia. I didn't go to bed until after 5 in the morning. In August, the old thief decided to change his mind and become a thief again. Ah no, a new person. Show off the old thief, you are doing bad things. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 813. Ye Bai didn't stay in the dream space for too long. First of all, the third brother doesn't like to talk much. For Xiaoao, there is not much difference between sitting in the abyss of the strongest or sitting on the 99th floor. It's all boring. Secondly, Ye Bai entered the dream space because of a bug and should not stay for a long time. Xiaoao maintains this dream space, retains the goodwill of the most powerful demon, and leaves a little hope of victory and the last trace of fire for this century-old cause. Ye Bai used his last resort to save the world. Needless to say, the target must be the most powerful demon. However, Ye Bai encountered 2 very difficult problems. First, he does not have the complete mark of the strongest in his hands, and his own strength has not crossed the last line. Putting aside the most powerful demon god, Ye Bai is indeed invincible among the powerful ones. But without crossing this line, Ye Bai would not be able to cause substantial harm to the most powerful demon. Invalid output belongs to yes. Ye Bai might do boring things. But he wouldn't do anything without profit, even if he killed Ye Bai. Second, Ye Bai is actually a mage. As a result, Ye Bai will learn many useless skills and non-damage skills in the process of understanding the law. Not everyone is called Wuhan. Enlighten whatever you want to understand. This makes the already ineffective output worse. However, this did not trouble Ye Bai. As a top card bug player, Ye Bai's performance has always been very stable. He first focused on gain skills and specialized in understanding such skills. Ye Bai really couldn't do it if he wanted to limit the effect of his skills. But after understanding the direction of the skill, Ye Bai can still interfere. He has learned many beneficial skills. Then, Ye Bai entered the dream space, found the child, and used beneficial skills on him. Unable to cause damage to the most powerful demon? Not a problem. As long as the child becomes stronger, the most powerful demon is weakened. Ye Bai successfully encountered a bug again. After chatting with the third brother, Ye Bai walked aside and looked at the child. Compared with when they first met, the child was obviously much older. Although his appearance was still vague, he was nearly 10 centimeters taller. Ye Bai briefly chatted with the child, and then after getting the other party's consent, he started to cast the spell. Baptism of Holy Thunder. A purple gold thunderbolt flew out from Yebai's fingertips, getting thicker and thicker, and finally became as thick as a bucket, and then landed on the child's head. The thunder and lightning quickly disappeared, and a purple gold thunder and lightning appeared in the child's eyes. In fact, he never understood why this weak elder brother would do such a thing. The effect can't be said to be average, almost nothing. The enhancement for children is less than 1/100000th. After all, he is the good intention of the most powerful demon god. Yabai couldn't hurt the most powerful demon, and adding buff to the child wouldn't make him any stronger. However, Yabai is very optimistic about this. 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Even if it is only 1/100000th of a million times stronger, it is still meaningful to Yabai. There is never a possibility of quick victory in this battle. The human race has been fighting for hundreds of years and will continue to fight as long as time allows. After finishing these tasks, Yabai said goodbye to his third brother again before retreating to the dream space. After returning to the void, the speed of the group of people hurriedly accelerated significantly. Yabai did not go to the abyss or return to Nanjiang, but went directly to the Eternal Tower. Shura, ahem, there is something I forgot to tell you. Xuemeng cleared his throat, not knowing what to say about this. Zhao Qian simply said. Half of the Eternal Tower was taken away by the most powerful demon. Yabai. Was there any mistake? Playing such a big game? He never thought about it. He wandered in the void for 3 years, and when he came back, he found that his home had been stolen. That's right, Mr. Lan speculates that for some reason, the Supreme Demon God is restricted to the Supreme Abyss. There is no need to explain some of the reasons for this, everyone knows it. Only the strongest of the human race can achieve this level. Xuemeng explained. He couldn't leave the Supreme Abyss, so he had no choice but to attack the seal. The Supreme Abyss itself is part of the Eternal Tower. The monsters that escaped from it occupied the upper half of the Eternal Tower. There are 2 seals in front of the most powerful demon god. Eternal Tower, carefree. He chose to tackle the simpler one, the Eternal Tower. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong is the behavior of Huo Tianwang. However, he can only do this. Let the monsters born in the abyss occupy the upper half of the Eternal Tower. Once they leave the Eternal Tower, these monsters are like rootless water. Without support, they will be easily killed by Xuemeng. But staying in the Eternal Tower, the interference they can do is very limited. The human race does not need to fight against the abyss now. The front-line legions are being repaired and there is not much need for strong men. Not being able to break into the tower actually made everyone sleep better at night. Therefore, when Yabai came back, he saw an Eternal Tower filled with smoke and dancing demons. There are even some monsters flying around the Eternal Tower, showing no fear. As soon as Xuemeng takes action, they will immediately hide in the Eternal Tower. Xuemeng could not enter above the 90th floor of the Eternal Tower and could not do anything to them. Hey! Isn't this Xuemeng? Why are you acting like this after not seeing each other for a few days? A monster with a terrifying aura shouted. Who is this young man? He has a strange face. Xuemeng, is he your son? He doesn't look like you either. Xuemeng. It's over, you're dead. Xuemeng actually sympathized with the other party in his heart. You offended Shura and still want to run away? Don't you know that Shura is petty? Yabai didn't even look at such noisy words and walked straight to the 99th floor. He casually slashed out a sword light, and thunder and lightning flashed in the sword light. It seems like a careless move, but it's actually full of details. Yabai had already stacked up his weapons and was ready to go. He hid his lightning skills in the light of his sword, killing both monsters and monsters. As expected of you. The monster, who was comparable to the god of war, was blasted from the air before he had time to react, leaving him unable to fight back. In the air of the Eternal Tower, Shura's indifferent voice echoed. Stay away. 1 update today, 2 updates starting tomorrow. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 814. From the 50th floor upwards, everything is now under the control of the most powerful demon god. Originally, in the design of the Eternal Tower, every floor was equal, and there was no distinction between high and low. After all levels are interconnected and can move freely. After the Eternal Tower came to the human race, Nightmare entered the Eternal Tower and opened the entire Eternal Tower to the human race. During this period, Nightmare made some minor changes. With the help of the Tower Spirit, the difficulty coefficient of the entire tower changes from weak to strong. The Abyss of the Strongest, which was originally lurking in the novice copy, was also moved away by Nightmare, trying to find a way to connect to the 100th floor. This also leads to the fact that the most powerful demon god on level 0, after breaking through the seal, does not appear on level 1, but on level 100. But even so, the most powerful demon god can only do so much. It is impossible for his body to go out. The monsters that rush out can be controlled up to the 50th floor. The 49th floor was originally under the control of the most powerful demon. Below the 49th floor, Yebai has passed the SSSS level, which is a human world in a sense. Therefore, these monsters cannot infect those below the 49th floor and can only become arrogant above. Even Xuemeng has no way to deal with them. After all, this kind of thing cannot be killed cleanly. Even if he was killed, a few bursts of demonic energy emerged from the Abyss of the Strongest, and he quickly recovered. Yebai didn't care about anything else. He walked to the 99th floor and knocked on the door 3 times. After waiting for a while, Yebai pushed the door open and entered. This floor is very clean. No monster dares to run wild on this floor. Of course, this is definitely not out of respect for the strongest human race. The two sides are mortal enemies of each other, and there is no talk of respect or disrespect. The only reason why monsters haven't invaded this floor is that they can't get in. The content on this level has long been moved out by the Nightmare and turned into an eternal forest. After Yebai entered, he discovered that there was a different world here. When Xiaoao was here before, many things were automatically hidden. Like the scorching sun hanging in the sky and the stars receding. Now that Xiaoao has left this level, Yebai's strength has been greatly improved, and Tan Yan has also successfully materialized. He could see many more details than before. There are writings on 3 walls on this floor. Yebai looked at the first wall first. As expected, he saw an ugly heart. The Nightmare left no words to future generations. It came in a hurry, and Nightmare felt like she had to do something. So, he drew an ugly love here. In fact, Nightmare has always thought that his paintings are quite beautiful. Maybe some people just don't have the talent. When it comes to painting, Nightmare is the best of the best. Even Yingju is as good at drawing maps as a ghost drawing talismans. When Nightmare left the love behind, he didn't think too much. Yebai looked at the painting, laughed a few times, and sighed again. It will be fine. Yebai turned to look at the second wall. This wall is covered with writing. Thousands of words, all the same. Kill. Every stroke of every word is a sword energy. Yebai seemed to see countless exquisite sword moves appearing before his eyes. In this life without a trace, kill to stop killing. He is good at killing, and some even like to kill enemies on the battlefield, like that kind of generosity, and like that kind of free and easy. Of course, if possible, Wilhan wouldn't want to pick up a sword and abuse food every day. Means nothing. He kills monsters just like chopping melons and vegetables, without any difficulty. Do butchers find butchering pigs fun? Does a cook find cutting cucumbers fun? Wilhan likes to wear a long sword on his waist and travel around the world. But, the situation is pressing. The human race is in a precarious situation, and monsters are pressing everywhere. With no choice but to use Wuhan's sword, he went on a killing spree. It is precisely these sword energies that make the monsters outside dare not offend him in the slightest. In front of this wall, Ye Bai felt a little emotional. Ye Bai saw the writing on the wall clearly. Default is Xiaju. Now I'm going to visit my second brother in the upper world, maybe we can take the opportunity to fight and have a slight advantage. Wasn't he suppressed by his adoptive father? Obviously, this should be Xiao's handiwork. Ye Bai knew very well that Yingju was indeed qualified to accommodate SSS-level talents and digest the fragments of the eternal origin. However, Ye Bai always felt that this kind of implicit decision was unreliable. Unfortunately, I can't go. The human race is at ease. Since the most powerful people of every generation have been retained, it means that this is what the most powerful people should do. However, who can say for sure what will happen more than 30 years later? Ye Bai didn't want the same thing to happen to Xiaoju again. Ye Bai heard from Xuemeng about the 5th generation of powerful seeds. Xiaoao also did it. A butterfly flew out, flapped its wings gently in the air, and finally landed gently on Ye Bai's shoulder. You are really at a loss. Xuemeng had also made an internal decision at the beginning. I hope something happens to Xiaju. Xiaoao left 4 words. In other words, Ye Bai needs to wait quietly for the time when the abyss of power appears again. Regarding Xiaju, we haven't even written a word yet. This powerful sword energy alone can kill several demon gods. I don't know how my second brother is doing in the upper world. Today's Ye Bai is no longer the strongest seed he was back then. The results of it? Ye Bai looked at the last wall. To become the most powerful seed, 1 foot has already stepped into the gate of hell. The human race needs a strong person to support the situation. But the second brother who wants to be strong in his life is really strong. Anyone who is close to the strongest will be in trouble. Mainly, he felt that the second brother would not be able to break through to the strongest one for a while. The responsibility on his shoulders prevents him from going wherever he wants. Ye Bai missed his second brother a little. The greatest disaster is the greatest calamity, the greatest calamity. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 815. Sitting on the 99th floor, Ye Bai did not look at the 3 walls, but stared at the empty space in a daze. He took out a piece of dogtail grass from somewhere and held it in his mouth. Later, he simply lay on the ground, stared at the ceiling, and fell asleep. In the past 3 years, Ye Bai had not slept much. Wandering in the void, no place is safe. He is the most powerful seed of the human race. Even if he does not consider his own life safety, he must also think about the human race. Nothing should happen to Ye Bai, otherwise, all the efforts of the past 100 years will be in vain. I finally got home, to the place where I feel the most secure. Even though third brother is no longer on the 99th floor, Ye Bai can already feel safe here. He just fell asleep, without dreaming, sleeping peacefully. I slept for nearly 24 hours. At Ye Bai's level, it was not unusual for him to sleep for half a year at a time. The problem is, Ye Bai used his last resort to save the world. When the 24th hour was approaching, the white dog next to Ye Bai started barking in an attempt to wake Ye Bai up. Otherwise, it's really a waste. Ye Bai threw the dog's head aside as if pressing an alarm clock. 5 more minutes of sleep. Stuck in the last 5 minutes, Ye Bai woke up. Is it so extreme to play? Don't leave any time for yourself to understand the Dharma? Ye Bai chuckled and didn't answer. If you are not afraid of death, even Ye Bai. He now has thousands of skills in reserve. Even if you don't understand the Dharma for 3 years, your life will not be in any danger. After stretching, Ye Bai took another trip to the dreamland. He didn't stay long before returning to reality. It's time to get down to business. When he walked out of the 99th floor, he found that the monsters that were so arrogant before were now hiding in the Eternal Tower. Apparently, they realized something was wrong. Shura, the strongest human race, is back. That's right. After Xiao Ao's disappearance, Shura has proven to be the most powerful person. At least, that's how it is in Terran propaganda. You, the most powerful person, must be fake. Yabai rolled his eyes and ignored Baigo's sarcasm. Can I, Shura, sell you a fake supreme power? As long as the most powerful demon god does not appear, Yabai will be truly the most powerful one. If you were alive. Yabai can also shout. Brother, save me. After leaving the Eternal Tower, Yabai went to the legendary health resort. Here, he saw Huoda, who was full of energy, and Lan Bangxian, who was still strong even in a wheelchair. Huoda still looks the same. Be civilized and polite. He is like this anyway, and other people can only say to him, ah, yes, yes. Huoda does not harm others on weekdays. 135 kicked the wheelchair with his left foot. 246 kicked the wheelchair with his right foot. On Sunday, I kicked my wheelchair with both feet. He is just a foot artist, without any sense of seniority. Unlike Huoda, Lan Bangxian is much quieter. Sitting in a wheelchair, he said nothing and was very cold. Yabai and Huoda didn't have much to talk about. They just exchanged brief greetings. Huoda went to do other foot building projects, while Yabai took the opportunity to push Lan Bangxian back to the ward. Push Lan Bangxian to the window. Yabai picked up an apple, took out a small sword, and began to peel it. I'm talking about Senior Sword Immortal, you're talking about my second brother. Before Yabai finished speaking, the small sword in his hand was naturally taken over by a Shenlai hand. Lan Bangxian held a small sword in his right hand and an apple in his left hand, and said coldly. That's not how swords are used. With a slight movement of his wrist, the sword in his hand and the apple peel automatically fell off in circles, just like an onion. Not only the apple skin, but also the pulp is decomposed in circles. After the apple was peeled, a sword energy rolled it gently, and the apple returned to its original state, as if it had never been peeled. If you want to achieve this level, Yabai can do it, it's nothing difficult. It's rare but, with Lan Bangxian's physical condition, he can do this. His swordsmanship not only did not decline, but actually improved. Lan Bangxian put the apple and the small sword back on the windowsill and looked into the distance, silent. Yabai sighed. He knew what Lan Bangxian was thinking. Yabai also often thinks about this problem. Wuhan is in the upper realm, how are you doing? Upper bound. An extremely restrained sword light pierced the sky, defeating 3 terrifying demon gods one after another. Although he failed to kill the opponent, he easily severely injured the 3 demon gods. This is the upper realm, and all existence is immortal. The battle here attracted the attention of all beings in the upper world. Since 3 years ago, after the seriously injured man was sent, the sky in the upper world has changed. For the first time, these beings understand that there are things more terrifying than death in this world. That sword. Looking at the 3 defeated generals in front of him, the man holding the sword did not feel the slightest sense of accomplishment. He has cut down the stronger. It's just walking the same path once again. What is there to be proud of? The man in black, wearing heavy armor, glanced across the audience, and a cold voice came from the helmet. He asked the whole world above. I say I am the strongest, who agrees and who opposes? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 816. Of course Ye Bai didn't know about the upper world. He only cares about the things in front of him. As the strongest person in the human race, you should at least shoulder your responsibilities first. After visiting Lan Bangxian and Huoda, Ye Bai went to the eternal forest again. The remnant soul of the nightmare has been gathered up and merged with the corpse in the sarcophagus. As for resurrecting a dead body, resurrecting a dead person, it requires a lot of preparation. At least it's not enough yet. However, allowing the remnant soul to warm up inside the corpse first can greatly reduce the difficulty later. Ye Bai poured a pot of wine on the place where Yingju was buried. Master Ju, Xiaoju, Xiaoju. It will take more than 30 years before Xiaoju can really come back to life. As for whether Yingju will be the most powerful seed more than 30 years later, the horoscope has not yet been revealed. Maybe, there will be a fierce man like Wuhan who comes from the sky and directly crushes Yingju. However, the probability is too small. Ye Bai didn't stay too much. He went to a few more places and saw a few old friends from a distance. In the past few years, his itinerary, according to official records, was all about practicing with his teacher, fighting in the abyss or in retreat. Zhao Lin is already in his junior year and is about to graduate. His graduation project was to kill a monster who would be a war king. Although the abyss is not at war with the human race now, the Eternal Tower blocks it, preventing the new generation of powerful humans from being promoted. Therefore, several demon gods work together to create a fighting battlefield for the young people of the human race to join the battle. Those who fought against them were just monsters transformed by demonic energy. They had no sanity, only realm and combat power. In 3 years, Zhao Lin gradually climbed from a warrior to the peak of a warrior, which was not easy. He's not the most improved yet. Lu Sueki had already broken through to the King of War, and her rank was quite good. Among his contemporaries, Wang is even more powerful, breaking through to the peak of the War King, and can become the god of war at any time. However, according to the powerful 9th level war god Su Qingfeng, it is too slow. How long did it take Su Qingfeng to break through to the 9th level god of war? Ye Bai also found Huo Tianyi. Instead of advancing in strength, he retreated, falling from the 9th level god of war to the 3rd level god of war in one fell swoop. After 3 years, Huo Tianyi finally solved the hidden dangers of the year and was able to start over. However, for him, it doesn't mean much to make a breakthrough or not. Huoda has been crippled, and Huo Tianyi can crush Huoda to death with just one finger. Huo Tianyi wanted to be the best in the world, but without Huoda, the second best in the world, it would be meaningless. He didn't even have the intention to practice, so he spent his days helping a boss named Su cook barbecue on the beach and watching the beauties on the beach. Seeing Huo Tianyi's not in his heart, Ye Bai appeared and said bluntly, Huo Tianwang's 9 deaths with no regrets is still being triggered. Huo Tianyi? You mean, that guy? That's right. Ye Bai said frankly. I don't know how he did it, but I'm sure that narrow death has been triggering for the past 3 years. Huoda paid the heaviest price for that incident. To this day, he is still bearing the punishment of eternal rules. But, Huoda has a talent that is almost buggy. He has survived 9 deaths without regrets. The more you die, the stronger you become. If the suppression of eternal rules disappears, how strong will Huo Daji be? Unimaginable. Suddenly, Huo Tianyi felt that there was hope in life again. He overturned the barbecue stall and flew away. A boss named Su was left behind and was furious. The powerful boss Su immediately chased after him, held down Xiao Huo, who was only at the 3rd level of God of War, and asked him to pick up the skewers from the ground. If I can't defeat the 9th level God of War, I can't deal with you, the 3rd level God of War. Seeing that Lao Su's performance was still stable, Ye Bai felt much more comfortable. In this world, there are always some things that remain unchanged. For example, Lao Tzu. Ye Bai found Xiao Ziyao, now the co-leader of the demon sect. His current title is too long to mention. He is in charge of all demonic cults. Xiao Ziyao is still messing around like before, neither getting up nor down. His disciple Zhang Yun seemed to have lost the vigor he had before, and his advancement speed had slowed down, like a rusty knife. Ye Bai is not what he used to be, and his vision is far from what it was back then. He could tell at a glance that after Zhang Yun lost his sharpness, he instead embarked on the path of heavy swords without sharp edges. His future achievements would be immeasurable. At the end of the day, a 9th-level war god was not like old Su. As for whether we can break through to the heavenly god of war, it depends on one's luck. Ye Bai turned around and returned to the original starting point. The Eternal Tower. Standing in front of the tower, there was a strong man carrying a sword beside him. Xuemeng frowned. Azura, why do you think I can't break through to the heavenly god of war? He has gained nothing from using the sword all these years. Enlightenment. What the hell? Xuemeng was not born with this material. He felt that if he broke through to the Tongtian war god, it might be easier to enlighten him. Ye Bai glanced at the other party, sighed, and comforted. Perhaps in this unknown corner of the world, there are people who have higher attainments in swordsmanship than you. Xuemeng thought carefully and came to a rigorous conclusion. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 817. Xuemeng tried his best to deny it, but Ye Bai laughed it off. In fact, even if Ye Bai didn't mention it, Xuemeng still had the suspicion in his mind. The problem is, he can't accept it. After Wu Hen left, Xuemeng practiced swordsmanship hard for another 3 years. Xuemeng said emphatically. Shura, when it comes to swordsmanship alone, I am definitely above you. Ah, yes, yes. Ye Bai rolled his eyes. You compete with me as a mage in swordsmanship, let's see what you can do. Do we want to compete with each other in sword enlightenment? I don't mean to show off, I have mastered 374 swords over the years. Xuemeng. He suddenly didn't know what to say. Xuemeng's disappointed mood hadn't dissipated yet. Suddenly his eyes lit up and he approached Shura. Brother, you have learned so much about swords. He didn't forget that when his second father left, he also ordered him to learn the sword. Xuemeng's performance has been very stable over the years, and he has never been enlightened by his sword. When the second father comes back, Xuemeng will probably die. You have to find a way to leave yourself a way out. He naturally thought of making a deal with Ye Bai. Do your own homework. Ye Bai's attitude was very clear. Want to help yourself? Need more money. Now that he has a pavilion of all things in his hands, Ye Bai really doesn't care about ordinary small money. Besides, 99.9% of Xuemeng's income must be turned over. He has become a pauper a long time ago. The most profitable sheep in the past has now become a bald sheep, and it's not just Ye Bai who is bald. The key is that the 3 people gathering wool are Ye Bai's half-brothers. Mainly because you can't win. What nonsense are you talking about? Ye Bai ignored the contemptuous ridicule, looked at the eternal tower in front of him where the evil energy was raging, and smiled slightly. Finally I can do something good at it. The other most powerful people showed no signs of disturbance when they abused food. Shuro was the only one who was particularly excited when he was abusing food. It feels good to abuse food for a while, and it feels good to abuse food all the time. He's ready to break into the tower. The Eternal Tower, Shura, am back. Eternal Tower, 49th floor. A flash of white light flashed, and Ye Bai returned to his loyal Eternal Tower. It was different from what Ye Bai imagined. The elf ancestor here is not dead. You know, she was already here before Xiao Ao broke through. Yabai looked at the huge tree of life in front of him and understood immediately. The elves are really dumb. When the elf ancestor saw Yabai's appearance, he did not attack immediately. Instead, he indicated that he had no ill intentions. Please allow me to say a few words. The elf ancestor spoke first. The Eternal Nine did make some mistakes that led to today's situation, but not everyone is stupid. Yabai sneered, did not say anything, and motioned for the other party to continue. In the last life, we realized that the results of building the Eternal Tower might not be very good. The elf ancestor continued. I, the blood ancestor, and the angel ancestor, have secretly reached an alliance. This history is something few people know. However, Yabai knew that neither the blood ancestor nor the angel ancestor were fuel-efficient lamps. The blood ancestor is still missing. The angel ancestor clearly went to the upper world and was one of the very few who escaped from the most powerful demon. And the elf ancestor, the weakest in strength and the weakest in presence. Logically speaking, the effect is also the weakest. No matter which one, it is better than now. According to our original plan, when the Eternal Tower is opened, the blood ancestor will break through to the strongest one and cooperate with the angel ancestor to open up this world and the upper world. It took me 3 years to open up only a small channel that can communicate with the upper world. Yabai is really interested in this thing. On the other side of the communication channel, the swordsman in black sighed and said helplessly. The elf ancestor continued. Before the elf ancestor could say anything, the sound of a man coughing came from the entrance of the cave. They might send the entire tower to the upper world and close the passage between the two worlds. The same goes for the blood ancestor, but unlike me, the blood ancestor took the initiative to give up the realm of the strongest, instead of failing like me. I have never reached the strongest realm, so I have not been affected by the strongest demon. The elf ancestor is not qualified. The elf ancestor sighed, and the tree branch shook his head. The angel ancestor ran away. In the upper realm, there is no one who can fight. The elf ancestor sighed. If it weren't for Nightmare, blood ancestor's plan might actually succeed. It is also possible that he could escape by himself and leave the trouble of the most powerful demon behind. Yabai never expected it. Hey, can you hear me? The problem still lies with the elder brother. The blood ancestor retreated. As for what happens next, that is another matter. The 3 situations are different. Yabai's eyes lit up. Your upper realm is too fake. What can the 3 of them do when they form an alliance? Yabai pointed at the hole in front of him, shouting as if on the phone. There was no reaction at all from the cave entrance. I don't know what happened. The blood ancestor didn't break through, and the 2 worlds couldn't be opened up. Yabai looked at the elf ancestor in front of him, his meaning was very clear. As long as there are beings who have reached the most powerful realm, they will be absorbed into one body by the most powerful demon god and become a part of the most powerful demon god. Before the destruction of the previous life. Ahem. Ah, this voice sounds familiar. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 818. No one can fight? Listening to the words coming back from the upper world, the elf ancestor's expression changed slightly. Who is this? Why are you so arrogant? Moreover, why was it not the angel ancestor who appeared on the other end of the call? What happened? So many questions to ask. The elf ancestors knew very well that this was no longer their era. As beings from the previous life, they are actually the people left behind. I am not welcomed by this world. The survivors are either in the Eternal Tower or hiding in the maelstrom to survive. There is no future. If you want to achieve the highest level of enlightenment in this era, it will be difficult to reach the sky. What's even more frightening is that the most powerful human seed, from the moment it awakens its talent, begins to accommodate fragments of the eternal origin and control SSS level talents. Along the way, they have sacrificed far more than others, and their strength is 100 times better than other races. There are only two kinds of powerful people in the world. The most powerful human beings, the most powerful ordinary people. Even the angel ancestors seem to find it difficult to compete with the strongest humans. Hearing the familiar voice, Yabai felt much more at ease. Judging from the second brother's tone, he probably has a handle on the upper realm. If you can't figure it out, you're almost there. Wilhen never brags, only reports the facts. In Wilhen's eyes, there are only 3.5 people in the world who can fight. The most powerful demon god counts as one, and the most powerful human beings, Nightmare and Xiaoao, count as one each. Shuro plus Shadow 9, together they count as half. Second brother, let me tell you, now is. Yabai reported the time, and by the way talked about the current situation of the human race, as well as the situation of Lan Bangxian and Huoda. In short, he talked about everything he knew. As for the outcome of the battle between Xiaoao and the strongest demon god, Yabai didn't say much. Wilhen knew better than Yabai what level Xiaoao was. Wilhen knew exactly how many tricks the powerful demon god had. With Wilhen's vision, it is not difficult to deduce the outcome of this battle. As long as Xiaoao doesn't want to die, no existence in this world can kill Xiaoao. After talking about the situation here, the conversation between the two fell into silence. There seems to be nothing to talk about. Yabai organized his language and asked tentatively. Brother, why don't you come back and take a look? Coming back from the upper realm may be difficult for the strongest. For the strongest human beings, it is definitely not a difficult task. When Nightmare fought against the most powerful demon, Nightmare was forcibly ascended by the most powerful demon and escaped from this world. The nightmare that burned life returned instantly, carrying a mountain on its back. Of course, Wilhen does not need to burn the source of life, after all, he is not in a hurry now. If you want to come back, there will definitely be no problem with the traceless ability. Return. Wilhen asked Yabai a question. Is there anything worth cutting for me? Ah, this. Yabai didn't know what to say for a while. You can't say, I am the most powerful person now, and we two brothers are gesticulating. Yabai was indeed drifting, but he was not stupid. The most powerful demon said it hurt even if he touched it with the traceless sword. Yabai's brain was twitching, so he found this uncomfortable. Although Wilhen went to the upper realm and hung up. However, judging from the second brother's tone, he has probably returned to the strongest state, and may even reach a higher level. If Xiaoao had sent an extra demon god there, this time might have been faster. However, it's not a big problem. The decisive battle with the most powerful demon has not yet begun, and the catastrophe of world destruction has not yet come. Please leave the character extras you want to see in this line, and like the top character extras for more updates. This blind sound was probably made by a certain demon god under Wilhen's suggestion. You guess. Since they are not on the phone, there will be no blind tone. Dozens of arrogant breaths stopped. The demon gods wiped the sweat from their foreheads and sighed one after another. He looked around and nodded with satisfaction. Move the upper realm back. Quietly, I heard that you can make more money through promotion in the first 30 years, and the old thief was instantly shocked. Well, originally this book was about to be finished, so I felt like I wasn't too excited anymore. Laughs. Toot toot. From the other end of the passage, a blind voice came. He wants to return to the human world often. Then what are you going to do in the upper world? Therefore, Wilhen made a simple and reasonable decision. If it is convenient for everyone, you can follow the author Ming You Old Thief and comment more, which seems to increase the popularity. After ascending, Wilhen felt that the upper world was not interesting, and this world was not interesting either. After ending the call, Wilhelm was obviously in a much better mood than before. No matter what the outcome of the activity is, after the main text is written, I will write a side story for you for a period of time. Wilhelm sneered. Yeb, I couldn't help but sigh. He was indeed Wilhelm. Wilhelm really wasn't in a hurry to come back. Anyway, the human race is not in any crisis now, everything is calm. Yeb, I could never guess what Wilhelm was doing when he returned to the world. They don't look like the strongest, more like trackers. Let's all take a rest. Upper bound. The speed of the moving upper bound also slowly slows down. Based on Yebai's understanding of Wilhelm, it was impossible for Wilhelm to stay idle. Yebai changed the question. A friend told me that Tomato recently held an event and was very popular. A swordsman who must be strong throughout his life and full of sense of ritual. Eternal spent a lifetime trying to ascend from this world to the upper world, but failed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 819. After the call ended, Yebai fell into deep thought. Oops. The second brother has become the strongest again. Yebai hasn't warmed up to the position of the strongest human race yet, and it seems he is about to be kicked out. Yebai seems to be unable to get rid of the title of being the most disdainful person in history. Faced with this situation, Yebai must do something. Breakthrough first. As expected of you. If something is difficult, just give up. Never give up on food abuse. Yebai looked at the tree of life in front of him and felt that the atmosphere had reached this point. It seemed a bit impolite not to kill the other party. Please allow me to say a few more words. The elf ancestor also had a very upright attitude, knowing that no matter what angle he looked at, there seemed to be no reason to live. In the last era, as one of the leaders of the 9 eternal clans, she made a big mistake. After that, for his own plan, he acted as a helper and worked for the most powerful demon. Xiaoao didn't kill her just because Xiaoao was too lazy to kill her. Shuro wants to take back the 49th floor of the Eternal Tower, so the elf ancestor must die. Even if she doesn't die at this moment, when she leaves this level, she will be snatched away by the most powerful demon and thrown into her mouth like a snack. Crunchy, chicken flavor. Their plan seemed to be meticulous, and every link was flawless. In fact, it is so riddled with loopholes that it is simply impossible to implement. The most important point is that the most powerful demon has seen through everything. He doesn't care. The most powerful demon god doesn't care about this level of strategy. Even if the third ancestor's plan is completely successful, so what? Even if the most powerful demon god is sent to the upper realm, without the origin of the world, what is there to stop the most powerful demon god? He can first empty out the upper world, corrupt and degenerate everything into a part of himself, and then kill back to his own world. No difference. The strongest point of the demon god is not his realm, level, combat power, or anything else. Rather, he can corrupt everything, polluting everything else as a part of himself. It's a pity that the most powerful demon god encountered the most powerful human race. At the beginning, the supreme demon god proposed to Nightmare more than once, allowing him to join the supreme demon god and even give up control of his body. In the end, Nightmare refused. No need to say more about Wilhelm. The grumpy old man has always been able to do something but not push. Happy. Are you worthy? In front of the most powerful demon god, the one most likely to fall and become corrupt is probably Shura. But the most powerful demon encountered a very embarrassing problem. Shura didn't get the complete mark of the strongest. He doesn't even have the ability to fall. Moreover, Yebai also went out for a wave in the middle, using his final attempt to save the world. This sword is Wilhelm's own sword move, and it can be ranked among the top 10 sword moves in his life. If the most powerful demon swallowed Yebai, it would be equivalent to swallowing a time bomb. Maybe the final backlash would be more damaging than what Yebai could do to the most powerful demon. Who is doing this loss-making business? Perhaps because of this consideration, Xiaoao has never sent the last piece of the puzzle of the strongest mark to Yebai. However, it's not a big problem. The elf ancestor said sincerely. I know that my sins cannot be washed away even if I die. However, I hope that after my death, you can plant the seeds of the tree of life and leave a hope for the elves. She was in existence from a previous era and was not recognized by this world. But if new seeds are used to plant a new tree of life and give birth to new powerful seeds of the elves, only then will the elves really have hope. Yebai has always respected the continuation of the race. He looked at the other party and asked casually. Finally, is there anything else you want to say? The elf ancestor smiled and said nothing more. Even if there was, she didn't want to say it. He survived 2 lives and made many plans, but in the end they all came to nothing. Right and wrong, merit and demerit, success and failure, right and wrong are left to future generations. The leaves on the tree began to shake crazily, each one glowing with golden light. She began to burn the source of life. It must be in the ultimate fighting state to have the chance to breed the best seeds. Out of respect for her, Yebai put the Heavenly King's sword back on his waist and raised the staff. A bolt of thunder fell from the sky, and the lightning illuminated half of his face. Rumble. Elf ancestor, death. Among the ashes, a golden seed was entangled with thunder and lightning, quietly suspended in the air, and then flew towards Yebai's palm. At the same time, a familiar reminder sounded throughout the Eternal Tower. Congratulations to the player, for completing the SSSS level on the 49th floor of the Eternal Tower. The word Shura became twisted. The Eternal Tower cannot reveal his name. At the moment when he killed the elf ancestor, Yebai took a small step forward. This is a small step for Yebai, a giant step for Shura. He officially crossed that line, broke through to level 990 or above, and became the god of war. He also officially possesses combat power comparable to the strongest. Feeling the power surging all over his body, Yebai exhaled a breath of turbid air with a calm expression. Tongtian. He shook his head. That's all. When I woke up, I found that I had rushed from 70 to 27, it was too fierce. I thank you all for the old thief. The king of angry people, top 30. The old thief is here. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 820. Once upon a time, the god of war was an unattainable word for Yebai. Back then, the most powerful seed had to hide in the shadows even when entering the abyss. Finally it grew into a big tree in the sky, the Dingai Shenzhen. Yebai didn't have much emotion. Because, at the moment when he successfully broke through, the Eternal Tower moved again. Countless demonic energy surged out, covering the upper half of the Eternal Tower. Yebai, who appeared outside the Eternal Tower, was not surprised at all when he saw the vision in front of him. I knew this beast wouldn't stop for a moment. After a burst of space fluctuation, Ying Ai appeared next to Yebai, as if facing a formidable enemy. Soon, Xuemeng rushed over and stared at the powerful abyss in front of him. Shura, my third father. Yebai closed his eyes slightly and fell asleep instantly. He was so close to the Eternal Tower at the moment, and the Wi-Fi signal was full. After falling into his dream, Yebai saw the child and the Taoist stone sculpture. After taking a look and confirming that there was nothing serious, Yebai returned to reality. Fine. Yebai said casually. I just made a cross-border long-distance call with your second dad. Your second dad is very satisfied with my performance during this period. I mentioned to your second dad by the way that you have mastered the sword. Xuemeng? Are you really cheating on me? Unfortunately, Shura is no longer the Shura he used to be. Otherwise, Xuemeng would give Shura a hammer no matter what. Now, can't beat it? By the way, your second father said that he will definitely come back within 30 years, so you can figure it out yourself. Yabai not only put the noose around Xuemeng's neck, but even took the initiative to tighten it. Xuemeng wanted to cry but had no tears. What's even more painful for him is that it's been so long and you still have the time to joke around. Unlike Xuemeng, Yingyi was much more relaxed. She knew very well the mentality of the boss in front of her. If the matter was really serious, Shura should start writing a suicide note and stacking buffs right now. Shura was still talking and laughing, which meant that the matter was not serious. No big deal. She even wanted to desert. More and more powerful people arrived. Under Xuemeng's organization, they tried to stay away from the Eternal Tower and waited for opportunities in the distance. Coming soon. Yabai didn't finish his words. A black light fell from the sky, falling with endless power. The demonic energy at the 100th level instantly increased more than 100 times. There seems to be an evil, powerful, and terrifying existence settling in it. The 98th floor, the 97th floor. The same thing happens on every level. However, on the 99th floor, as soon as the monster's aura appeared, it was strangled by the sword energy on the wall. And this sword energy, after this squandering, has also dimmed. The murderous intention is still there. In front of the powerful human race, the eternal towers one after another fell one after another. The aura coming out of it is comparable to that of a demon. People looked horrified and exchanged glances with each other, wondering what was going on. Only a few strong men at the front, relying on their understanding of the most powerful demon god, could guess the sporadic truth. Is this the powerful man that the most powerful demon god absorbed back then? Xuemeng took a breath of cold air and felt his scalp numb. Have we actually pushed him to this point? The most powerful demon god's current actions are somewhat out of control. However, Xuemeng never expected that the most powerful demon would be here today. Is he really going to die? His biological father, Xueju, the first war god in the human race, died in the abyss of the Mighty One. According to the second father, even if Xuemeng was 10,000 times stronger, he still couldn't keep up with Xueju. Nightmare, Traceless, Happy. The three most powerful men of the human race fought decisively with the most powerful demon god one after another. The results of it? The most powerful demon god should still eat and drink, and should not take anything to heart. It's up to you. He is anxious. He was finally in a hurry. After fighting against the human race for 100 years, this beast will be in trouble one day. Xuemeng felt indescribably happy in his heart. His conjecture was approved by Yabai. Indeed. However, the truth is more cruel than Xuemeng guessed. 50 floors, all fell into the hands of the most powerful demon. Every floor is occupied by real strong people, not empty frames with only demonic energy and realm. Moreover, half of the Eternal Tower is occupied by the strongest demon gods. These powerful ones are equivalent to having home field advantage, and their strength will be further enhanced. It will only become more difficult to clean up these debris. Feeling the strength and weakness of each layer, Xuemeng said solemnly. A total of 5 supremely powerful beings and 45 top-notch war gods. This combat power is placed in the Eternal Tower. Hiss. There are only 4 words to describe it. So scary. No. Yabai shook his head and smiled bitterly. You are mistaken. They are the 49 most powerful men and the most powerful demon god. Everyone is so fierce it's almost in the top 20 friends who haven't followed it can follow the old thief so that he can take a step further on the road to becoming the king of angry people. I looked around, and it seems that the first 30 are the ones with the least updates. Show off the old thief, you are doing bad things. The old thief from the underworld is online.